This is Ashley Thomas and you're locked on the SAT Telecoms.
Yo, this is Ace Banton in SAT building, baby. You're watching SAT Telecom, that's the #1 choice. Boom!
Good evening, welcome to SAT TV News. I am Shanna Esprit and I am your presenter for the evening. Among the major developments, dead body found in Mount Prosper, Antigua and Barbuda to enforce death penalty after recent killing, South Africa shocked as police brutality victim dies. Details of these and other stories after the break.
SAT TV. Drink your drink. SAT TV. SAT Telecom. SAT TV. Crossfire the bomb. SAT TV. Dominica the norm. TV. Yeah man, SAT TV Crossfire. The people's choice. That's for real. Right.
Welcome back. Dominica can finally say it has crossed a milestone and have definitely progressed to the next level in terms of technology. Last night, the long-awaited Internet Exchange Point program was launched at the Fortune Hotel. Representatives of Internet service providers such as SAT Telecommunications, Lime, Mapping 2K4, and the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission were in attendance. IXP is managed by the non-profit organization Dominica National Internet Exchange Point, DANIX, which is made up of 4 establishments.
It's an organization made up of 4 establishments: Mapping, Lime, SAT, and the NTRC. This is a milestone that we should be proud of. Firstly, we are not only the 2nd country in the OECS and the 3rd in the English-speaking Caribbean to implement such a network device, which enables more efficient use of the internet, but the whole process manifests a new dimension in the competitive telecommunications landscape.
Mr. Craig Nesty, Executive Director of the NTRC, educated the public as to what the IXP is.
The IXP, at its most basic definition, is a banal piece of hardware, a switch, where internet service providers are interconnected. The routing configurations enable only traffic originating in Dominica on one ISP and destined for Dominica on a different ISP to traverse that switch. In so doing, traffic originating from one local ISP can terminate on another local ISP and vice versa without having to go through lengthy, expensive international routes.
Mr. Bevil Wooding, a consultant for Caribbean Telecommunications Union, commended Dominica for making these ventures a reality. Mr. Wooding gave a more physical understanding in the form of a diagram on how the IXP program operates.
Why is this important and why are we celebrating the launch of such a basic technology facility? Well, because of how much we've now come to depend on the internet and internet communications as part of not just technical development, but economic and social development. This diagram gives you a sense of what existed before the IXP was established here in Dominica. And you would see where traffic would have formerly to get between one local ISP like Mapping to another like Lime would have had to pass through a foreign internet service provider, then a foreign internet exchange point before coming back into the local space to get to another local customer.
Mr. Wooding said the presence of a domestic IXP enhances a country's ability to build a robust domestic internet ecosystem and economy. He stated he feels that the opportunity is here to establish from Dominica patterns that can be used throughout the Caribbean region. We are not just launching a switch, but the establishment of a foundation, said Mr. Wooding. Head of Service Support Delivery at Lime, Mr. Dudley Guys, emphasized in his presentation that in order to reap maximum benefits, we need to focus on further development of local content. Mr. Guy gave recognition to DANIX and NTRC for the development of the IXP.
I must applaud the approach taken by the NTRC to the development of the IXP, in that DANIX, the body charged with leading the affairs of the IXP, is constituted of representatives from all internet service providers. It is an initiative that therefore underscores the collaborative efforts amongst competing entities for the common good of the ICT agenda of our nation.
A representative from Mapping 2K4, Mr. Peter Banis, said that we can now say we are not connected to the internet but a part of it. Mr. Alexander said that it has been 3 months since the SAT and Lime has been interconnected on the IXP and started passing traffic. He stated, normally this traffic would have normally traveled via the United States and back to Dominica. He was proud to say that today all local traffic remains within our network. The general manager of SAT Telecom said the IXP will be an asset to all telecom providers, business partners, and the public. He says it will also provide opportunities for small businesses in many avenues, namely hosting servers.
It is now some 3 months SAT, Marpin, Lime interconnected on the IXP and started passing traffic. This traffic would have normally traveled halfway around the world to reach us back here. Today, the traffic stays within our network. That is local traffic. The IXP will be an asset to all telecoms providers, business partners, and the general public. It will also provide an opportunity for small businesses in many avenues.
Mr. Amborse George, Minister of Information, Telecommunications and Constituency Empowerment, says this launching has been truly a fine start, but the journey has just begun. He says he is elated because his ministry has crafted a development approach through the constructive engagement of all the key stakeholders in telecommunications and ICT initiatives.
You would by now realize that the Ministry of Information, Telecommunications and Constituency Empowerment, the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, the NTRC, regional and international expert internet strategists, Mr. Bevil Wooding of Packet Clearinghouse, and our local telecommunications operators and service providers, SAT, Telecoms, Mapping 2K4, and Lime Dominica, all participated to bring about this IXP.
In more news, Black History Month, also known as African American History Month in America, is an annual observance in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom for remembrance of important people and events in the history of the African diaspora. It is celebrated annually in the United States and Canada in February and the United Kingdom in October. Black History Month was formed in 1926 in the United States when historian Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History announced the second week of February to be Negro History Week. The Maho Primary School certainly did not forget about Black History Month as they held a Black Awareness presentation on Thursday, February 28, 2013.
It wasn't until last year that we really celebrate Black history in a real big way. We celebrated Caribbean history. And for those of us who were there, you would agree that it was a wonderful presentation. Our children did an excellent job. This year, we have decided to focus on Black history, African American history. People often ask, why do we choose to focus on slavery?
The play began with an interesting introduction from one of the students who impersonated the President of the United States, Barack Obama.
The heartache and the hope, the struggle and the progress, and the people press on the American dream. Yes, we can. She was there for the buses and the runway, the horses in Birmingham, a bridge in Selma, and a preacher from Atlanta who told the people that we shall overcome. At a time when the women's voices were silenced and their hopes was totally dismissed.
The students demonstrated how things were when the first African slave ship arrived in Virginia.
70 years in these folks' world. The child I works for calls me girl. And I says, yes ma'am, for working sake. I'm so proud then and super today. I laugh until my stomach ache when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. I laugh so hard, I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but we eat the rind when I think about myself. And my folks lose attention.
Further excitement and interest from the crowd grew when the students demonstrated the reaction of a slave who gained his freedom. The play brought out various emotions from the crowd. The most emotional part of the demonstration was how the slaves were abused, killed, and tortured. Parents said it was a great initiative to host an educational play at the school by the students, because not only did they have fun, it was also a learning experience. In more news, information reaching SAT TV News states that a male body was found on Wednesday, February 27, 2013, in the community of Mont Prosper. Medical personnel secured the lifeless body on a stretcher and was placed behind a waiting vehicle. The body was then transported to the Princess Margaret Hospital mortuary. An autopsy and a preliminary inquiry is expected to be performed. Further details are not available at this time. However, SAT TV News will provide an update as soon as more information becomes available. In more news, a number of residents from the Roseau Valley who are against the construction of a geothermal plant in the community let their voices be heard loud and clear as they engaged in protest action outside the Parliament building on Thursday, February 28, 2013. The villagers, who were very vocal regarding a geothermal plant in the community, stood in solidarity with each other while displaying placards with messages against the plant. The protest occurred while the government was at a sitting of Parliament where a decision had to be taken on the authorization of a loan for financing of geothermal electricity in the amount of 6.5 million euros. Public Relations Officer of the Geothermal Awareness Group, Mr. Jeffrey Charles, who led the protest, says they sent a number of requests to government for environmental impact assessment along with other important reports from the commencement of drilling the test wells. However, they are yet to receive such documents. Mr. Charles pointed out with a geothermal plant in the Roseau Valley, it will create too many social and economic issues that they simply cannot afford to deal with.
We would like the government of Dominica to review its decision on the geothermal production in the Roseau Valley. As it relates to more, we believe that there will be more economic impact, and once it impacts on you economically, it's going to impact socially, and it's going to impact on the whole island. We in Wharton Waven, we from Wharton Waven, where we've been, Wharton Waven, Trafalgar Loda, on a whole, has been one of the center focal point for tourism on the island. We got all the natural sites up there, and we fear that with a development of that magnitude, that we may lose that area. And it is the state it is right now, and the country knows that this area is a multi-billion-dollar area right there in its natural. It's just in its natural form. All it takes is that, you know, for the people in Dominica to just invest in the area within the aspect of tourism.
Another concern raised was the issue of acquisition of land, where Mr. Charles stated many Roseau Valley residents will lose their land. and have to be relocated to accommodate the geothermal plant. He said this protest is an appeal to the government to temporarily halt the project until the EIA and other important information of the project can be made public to the Roseau Valley residents.
Now, the thing is, in the Roseau Valley area, people up there, you have farmers up there, people are working in tourism and so on. From the beginning, what the government should have done was to have the scientists, the scientists or some independent group from the United Nations to explain to the people. There was supposed to be adequate, we believe that there should have been adequate information to sensitize the people of the valley and of Dominica by extension, and that it would not have escalated the way it is right now.
He said, although the government brought in scientists to sensitize the residents of the project, this was only done, in his opinion, when the villagers raised their concerns. However, he said they are requesting an independent study to be carried out on the project, which they would trust. Mr. Charles, in commenting on the Dominica delegations led by Minister of Energy and Ports, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, who visited the Bouya plant in Guadeloupe earlier this year, he said his delegation should have had scientists and or geologists to do a report to disseminate to Dominicans. Wharton Raven residents Ms. Eliza Charles Marshall, who is the secretary of the Geothermal Awareness Group, mentioned that she is not against geothermal energy. However, she is against a geothermal plant in the Roseau Valley.
The valley provides 75% of water, household water for Dominica. And if that geothermal continues or goes through in the valley, it means that we are going to contaminate our water source and bring disease to our people. We're going to destroy our people fully. So we are not for geothermal in the valley, and we are asking the people of the valley to let people know where they stand. Geothermal is not good for us in the valley, not in the tourism hub of Dominica.
Loda resident Mr. Ralph Magloire says a geothermal plant in the Roseau Valley is not a wise idea, as it will have a negative impact on the tourism products the Roseau Valley has to offer.
I wonder if government so interested in the tourist industry and to going and have a geothermal hydro just by the balancing tank and looking below where we have two waterfalls, what will become of this geothermal business when it comes on stream? And to make it worse, government sends some people to make sure for us to interact with them. And when comes, they had people that qualify to explain to us.
Ms. Francilia Magloire, also from Loda, is of the view that since Dominica has 365 rivers, we should pursue hydroelectricity, which is more environmentally friendly when compared to the geothermal energy.
I am not in favor of that geothermal thing because, first of all, it had a tram operating in Loda village. They closed down the tram for the sake of geothermal, and then 60-something people went out of jobs, and then you just want to put money in some people's pocket. You think the French government will risk their citizens' life for our sake? No, and I say no, they will not do it. They will not do it for nobody. And I feel when you see that if that geothermal come on stream, the one in Guadeloupe will be abandoned and Dominica own will be giving them the service of that geothermal thing. Dominicans, we need to stand up. Dominicans, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of losing a job? Are you afraid of losing your job? You can be hired and fired at the same time.
Ms. Magloire stated Dominica has a number of loans to repay for various projects. Adding one more for this geothermal plant will seem like the taxpayers will die paying taxes for loan repayments taken by the government.
When are we going to come out under that loan board? When? Tell us when we're going to come out under that loan. Millions of dollars for road, millions of dollars for water, millions of dollars to put in man's pocket. When are we going to come out under that loan problem, that loan business, Bodu? Tell us.
In other stories, staff of the Sales and Customer Services of Lime Dominica staged protest action on Thursday, February 28, 2013, as it is alleged that the company is moving ahead with plans to outsource and privatize the area of operations. When SAT TV's news team arrived at the institution, the company appeared to be operating with a skeleton crew. Employees in senior positions who would normally be behind the scenes was cashing and dealing with customers to make up for the lack of employees during the sick-outs. As a result of staff from various sections of that department calling in sick, it affected the business operations, which resulted in long lines. Lime officials are remaining tight-lipped on the situation, as a number of persons who were contacted on the situation declined to comment. SAT TV News will continue to follow the story as it unfolds. In other stories, less than 2 years after making 2 senior staff members redundant, the management of Mapping 2K4 has served redundancy letters to a number of senior staff members. Reports indicate that the company is experiencing serious financial problems as it did in the past. And at a board meeting this week, instructions were given to send at least 10 staff members home. Despite reports of making great strides and significant progress since the departure of former General Manager Mr. Walter Maud, who it is allegedly left a debt of almost $5 million, it appears that the company is a sinking ship. So far, those receiving redundancy letters are Mr. Brian Doctrove, Mr. Augustus Juliana, Ms. Jessica Peanut-Byrne, Mr. Franklin Peter, and Mr. Jerry Henderson. Mapping 2K4 is owned jointly by WRB Enterprises and the Dominica Social Security and is managed by Mr. Perickson Isidore. Efforts to reach Mr. Isidore proved futile, but SAT TV will continue to monitor the story as it unfolds. This has been the local segment of the news.